that's down here until I, discussed with a few colleagues and I realized that there's a lot of confusion now as to who a man is. Men want to become women and then women also want to become, and there's just a whole different conversation, which I hope our panelists are going to cover today. But from the medical perspective, I mean, a man, you have the male, physical characteristics. That's who you are. But then there's the gender, the male gender, and there's a certain way that, society ascribes to. Yeah.
All right, let me ask for the audience, show of hands, if you think that there's a crisis of manhood, however you describe it and think about it, show of hands. Just say if there's a crisis, you think there's a crisis of whatever things like is men. Okay, that's a lot. Show of hand if you think we are fine, we're okay, and people are just, watching a lot of random things that don't make sense. Show of hand, that we're just fine, we're okay. No one. So let's tackle this. Why do you think there's a crisis? And what is that crisis that you think you have? Just very quickly hit it. What is that crisis that Kenyan men have?
Should have sat there. Should have been the one starting. So we have a tug of war, especially in my generation, a tug of war between holding traditional nuances and principles of what a man is, and then living in the world of today, where you're being challenged. I run 7 businesses. 6 of my CEOs are women, and they're managing men. Then second, I've been in the healthcare industry for a long time. Double the number of suicides is men. And then we have the boy child. And it's a crisis. I run a foundation that focuses on the boy child. And with the kind of data that we are collecting and the issues that we are facing, it tells us we are in a crisis. Now, when I talk about the tug of war, there's something expected of me as man of the society that I grew up in, that a man can behave in a particular way. The introduction here was an example. You cannot show your emotion. You're not supposed to allow yourself to cry. It's a topic I talk about, Pastor Mary knows about it, about male vulnerability. Who do we speak to when we have issues? Emotional issues, we discuss with women. Because you can't tell your man, you can't talk about emotion with your men friends or your men society without being judged. And so you're afraid. So when you go to men to discuss your issues with your men friends, you go for solutions, not emotions. And actually, most of the time they tell you, come on, man up. I don't know what that means. To man up, because then I can never be vulnerable. And so what happens? We have a pent-up issue that manifests as anger. When I have a money problem and I work for a woman, I start blaming her. So what happens? I go to the beer. So I drink drugs because I have no society setting of where I can express my emotions. Then we are emotional beings. So that has driven a crisis. Now, traditionally in Kenya, we were very patriarchal, right? Men used to call the shots. If you grew up in the village, by the way, your dad, even if he had less money, is the one who dominates. Then you come to university, girls are doing better than men. The work environment, women are doing better. And as an entrepreneur, I've seen the fact that a woman will take a job and do a good job for the sake of doing a good job. A man wants to work for me. He's 25 years old, want to drive a car. I live in the area that I drive in. And so you find, so I do alcohol distribution. All the theft that I get around that space is my sales guys, we keep stealing, right? And if we do not fix it, we're going to have it worse.
But the question is this, where did this start? You spoke about the boy child.
Yeah.
And I assume there's a girl child somewhere.
The girl child.
Right.
Yes.
So should we balance it off, or where did we start? Where did we fail?
So it's systemic and societal at the same time. So I grew up in the 80s, and I was mentioning to Pastor Baby, you all remember a program, Take Your Girl Child to School, all those programs. There was no story about a boy. And even where I grew up, I come from a family of 6 boys and 2 girls. There was a system of how a girl is mentored. Aunties get involved in all those situations. But there was no structured way of mentoring a boy. You don't allow men to be vulnerable. When my daughter turned 12 and got her periods, I had no idea what to do. And so I'm trying to talk to her, and she told me, oh, Dad, hold on. I've been carrying pads for the last 2 years. Shosho taught me, my teacher taught me. My son, who is now 23, has never had a chance, apart from me, to go through this particular process. I don't know how many of these men here have ever hugged their dad. Hugged. A hug, not a shoulder bump or fist bump, hug. It doesn't happen. Hug your kids, man. Hug them both and hug the boys more. Okay. Because you need to allow these men to express themselves and show emotion, right? And that's where the crisis is. We, as a society, have not built those particular structures.
Pastor Baby, you man enough, deal with this every day.
Yeah.
What is our excuse of not showing emotion as men? I mean, so there's a historical problem, but why can't we do it today? Why can't we fix it today?
Well, it's because of what we saw. We're a product of what we see around us, the environment in many ways. For example, I think what you said, just speaking from there, when ladies meet together, because I'm married to one, and I have 2 daughters, within a short time, they're going to get personal. They're going to say, do you know how I'm doing as a wife, as a mother? When men meet together, they're going to talk about sports, money, women, and politics, yeah? Rarely are they going to get personal and say, I'm struggling as a father. So women naturally socialize. Men do not. It has to be structured. And I think that's where we put together Man Enough, to structure these conversations. Otherwise, men wouldn't talk about those things. And I think that's what we have seen as we structure those conversations and then we make it safe for men to talk. Men would not talk unless they feel safe. So we always at the beginning have a sign-in and we say, this is going to be safe. Whatever you say here stays here. And we're going to be real. We're not going to pretend here. And because of that, by the 3rd week, men are sharing things they've never shared for all their lives, because they feel it's safe here. Nobody is going to judge me for looking weak, I think what we say is you cannot be strong unless you're strong enough to be weak. You need to be strong enough to show emotions, strong enough to deal with them. So I think once they realize then it's permissible, because part of it is a societal pressure. Today, if we find my friend here that I've known today sitting on a street crying, everyone is going to say, oh, sorry, what can we do? If they find you on the street crying, it's going to be a TikTok maneno, it's going to be thrown around and say, what's wrong with men these days? They're going to laugh at you because they don't expect you. So we've got to give ourselves permission to be vulnerable, and then society will give us permission because we make society. But just to say, I think the crisis I've seen with men over the years is identity and purpose. A lot of men just don't know who they are anymore. Part of it is the changes we have, because a lot of the young men here, according to stats, are likely to marry a woman who is earning more than them. If they are 25 to 37 in Nairobi, you're likely to marry a woman earning more than you.
How's that a problem?
So that's what I asked.
Yes.
I actually asked the men, would you marry a lady like that? And only 2 out of 100 would raise their hands, the strategic ones. The rest of them, they feel this is too much. Why? Because men see money as power, while women see money as security. So a man feels powerless if he doesn't have more money than the other. Again, socialization.
So what happens if my wife starts earning more than I'm earning today? What should I do?
Well, of course,
it's a crisis.
If it's a good relationship, then it shouldn't be a problem. You just say, how are we going to handle this? But here is a problem, because sometimes even the women feel the last 3 years, I've handled 3 divorces whose main premise was the fact that the lady began to earn way more and she felt the dude was not pulling his weight. And yet it was a crisis of business. It wasn't his fault. And he was putting all effort. Of course, I don't support a guy just sitting there and waiting to be provided for. That's an entirely, a different matter. But if you're making effort and your business is not doing well, and now you're being kicked out because of that, then it means there's a problem there from both of us in terms of masculinity. So identity and purpose. And that's a lot of the boy children that we are mentoring right now. We're doing a program where we are trying to mentor 1 million boys in the next 7 years. And a lot of the ones we're dealing with just don't have confidence in who they are. And the girls are way more confident. A lot of it is, just to finish with this, is a fatherlessness. Because we did a study a few years ago and we saw 72% of the Kenyans we talked to who are representative of a nation did not have a good relationship with the father. They were either unfathered or underfathered, very little fatherhood, or misfathered. They just had fathers they didn't like and hated. Now, if a boy doesn't have a man to begin to help him understand the ropes of manhood, then it's going to be a problem. He's not going to know who he is, because he has not been socialized in that way. Rites of passage has broken down. Men used to sit around the fire and look at the fire and talk to one another. That's no longer happening. So it's left like for the father, not even uncles, for the father to be the sole, socializing agent for the boy. So when that doesn't happen, then a lot of boys, like I did for a long time, had a father hunger, was struggling with our identity, and we needed other men because you need other men to help you understand how to be a man.
Right. Amakove, would you marry someone who's earning considerably less than you? And what does that do for you as a woman? And talk to me around this, sort of like the change of dynamics that women now are in this place where traditionally you're not expected to be, but you're here now. You're earning and earning more. What should we do?
Thank you. Have you read my life story? It seems like you have. So I'll give you my personal example. So I grew up in this peasant family, was gifted academically, went to one of the schools in the green areas that we don't usually mention, and then was called for medicine. So in between, in our lot, there was a 2-year gap. So those who had money from their parents were taken to the Strathmores, the whatnot, for those bridging courses. But the rest of us had to wait for the normal system to absorb you. So in that waiting, I got to start dating in Nairobi. And I remember mentioning to him the school that I went to. And then he told me that he went to another school that's also a national school. But later I found out that he lied so that he could fit into my expectation. Yet for me, it was conversation, because it's a fact. I went to that school. I was called for medicine. It's a fact, isn't it? I'm not saying it to brag, although I know most of my people usually say it to brag. But I got confused for a bit when I discovered much later, because I wondered, why did he have to lie? Because the school that he went to was not going to be a judgment of who he was. Now then got into other relationships and eventually into marriage. And I realized all this time I've been brought up as a girl, you can do the best you can succeed, you can do your medicine, you've come out with your degree, and then you get into this relationship and suddenly you're supposed to become, like, to shrink yourself. And I think that became the conflict, because we have gotten this empowerment, quote unquote, and then we get into this relationship and it's not spoken. It's just an expectation, especially when you do this premarital counseling. And I really tell people there's a lot of damage that some of these conversations do to relationships, because you're taught to, as a woman, to be the one to keep the man and to be the one to keep the house and to be the one. And yet you've come out with, you're a CEO in his organization. When you go home, you are expected to remove all that and not talk about politics and not talk about it, yet you enjoy talking about it at work, and become this other person. And this other person is maybe expecting, because they were maybe misfathered, underfathered, overfathered, all those adjectives, and has also come with his background and expecting this submissive person. And there's a lot of conflict. In fact, amongst my age group, I'm 45 now, many people are going through divorce because we are at that stage of, you've raised your children, if you have children, so they're past that 5-year danger zone. They're teenagers, or mostly. Your career has pivoted or your business are doing well. And suddenly you're having this person and you start wondering, okay, what's the value that I'm getting out of this relationship? Because I have the money, I have the children, I have the titles if they're there. And this person is going through a crisis, this crisis that we don't know how to sort out. And it becomes a very big issue. And I'm seeing a lot of relationships breaking at this point, including mine. It broke mostly because I succeeded, because I didn't know how not to succeed. I was trained to succeed, isn't it? So how again do I not do my best at work? Or how again do I not take a master's or do what? I realized I needed to take myself to a certain level because now I could not, you can't tag along someone. So I think from these conversations, is there a way in which we can find out from the men, how do you not get threatened? Because it's two different individuals in terms of lives. So how do you not get threatened? And I've experienced it a lot with the relationship, even post-divorce. When you mention your titles or your accolades or your CVs, you get people shrink, people keep quiet, people withdraw, people stop calling you. So it's not something that is even with relationships. There's a crisis in terms of how do men handle this woman who is suddenly an empowered, who's earning more than you. It's not, we're not rubbing in your face, but it's a fact. The bank account shows that. But I'm raising daughters and a son. And I see my daughters not even going for marriage. I see that generation. They are not thinking about that. So there's a generational change also in terms of how we are parenting these people is very different from how we were parented. So these conversations are very important. And especially for some of us who are raising boys alone, I think for me, the biggest conversation for me here is to see who will stand in the gap for these many boys. And there are many. We have very many single mothers raising boys without that father, the father oversight. If you go to someone, they start expecting friends with benefits kind of a relationship. Yeah. So we are moving along every day. These children are growing up, but I'm really fearing for in a generation to come, we'll have even more confusion that we have now.
Okay, Doc, I want to bring you to explain how we see this from the medical perspective and the point of view in terms of STIs, STDs, multiple sex partners. Talk to me around that.
Yeah. So before that, I just wanted to say, as the two gentlemen were talking, I just remembered a meme where there is a goat, and then up here it's written, "This is how ladies see you when you don't have money." Yeah. I don't know whether you guys have seen that meme. Yeah. So yeah, it just basically tells you about the societal pressure for men to, be at a certain level. And that money defines a man. And I know that conversation will continue. Yeah, I mean, we do see a lot of these diseases, and not just sexually transmitted diseases, but also other chronic diseases. Now, it's a well-known fact that things like chronic stress, it's always been known, but now it's coming into the medical literature that chronic stress, lack of proper sleep can actually contribute to some of these chronic diseases like high blood pressure, diabetes, that can then give complications like strokes, heart attacks, and so forth and so on. We see a lot of, these sexually transmitted diseases, particularly among younger people. And it's just mind-boggling that with all the knowledge out there about how we can prevent some of these conditions and whatnot, you still see people, being, for lack of a better word, careless. And, and they'll come into your office and they'll have, these medical issues. And luckily, some of them, most of them are easy to treat. But looking behind the person who made the decision, that led to this kind of outcome, then, you know that there are so many other things that are going on. I think because of the societal pressure against men, I think that's why we see a lot of diseases that affect particularly middle-aged and older men. And it's true that out of the many patients who come, even just for wellness checks, a lot of them, especially the men, will end up being diagnosed with this issue or this other issue. And when you take a better history, then you'll realize that some of the things that are causing this are actually, lifestyle conditions. Yeah.
All right, I want to get the microphone. Where's the microphone? Okay, I will donate my microphone if we have. Yes. From the audience, let's start with women first, because I know men want to speak a lot. Let's start with women. Do you feel and think that from your relationship and from your perspective, that you're threatening men if you succeed, or just by existing? All right, maybe you just exist and you're just like, so anyone wants to volunteer? Ladies first. All right.
I want to answer straight what you have said then. Are we threatening men?
Yes.
Men are choosing to be threatened. Yeah. Even when you are easy, you simply living your life, a man will choose to be threatened. Now, what do? It's his life.
All right, another lady. Anyone else wants to share? I want to start with ladies, because when I get to men, I'm not coming back to this. So let's, please, this is the time to speak.
Good evening, everyone. Well, my perspective will be a bit strange because I'm a gender specialist with a special focus on masculinities. So already I know there's a lot of tight, like, oh, another women telling men. But, and I also run groups and stuff like that, but my focus, that comes up a lot, definitely. But the focus is more so because there's literally a gender war going on. A lot of both sides talking, but no one is really listening to each other. And basically in my groups, what we encourage is to pull yourself up. Like, what is it in you? What is it that has been neglected in men that reacts negatively to someone being better? So it's not really about women are doing better, men are doing better. What is happening inside of you that feels the need to pull someone else down, male or female, as opposed to coming up? So it's about looking at the societal implications, economic, the discourse in gender that would bring a situation where we find ourselves now.
All right. Any other perspective from ladies? Going one, twice. Oh, at the back.
I think I wanted to ask a very different question. So men say that some men feel that they're threatened by women, but the reality for all women in this room is that every day they have to plan their lives quite aware that a man might harm them. Yeah. If you think about gender-based violence, the people we love and are very close to are the ones most likely to actually harm us financially, emotionally, etc. The threat to men is not that. There are very few men who wake up thinking my wife will punch me, my wife will deny me money, my wife will lock me outside the house. Yes.
Maybe we just don't report it.
But what I'm trying to say is, I agree that there are some men who experience that, but by and large, even all of you who have daughters know that from when you're very young, you warn them about men, yeah? But you don't spend a long time warning people about women in quite the same way. What we have is a narrow idea of manhood that doesn't apply to everybody. There are very, very many men celebrating women in their best lives, celebrating their wives, mothers, daughters. When you, as a guy, find yourself threatened, you have to ask, is my definition of manhood narrow? That I should feel this existential threat from somebody who does not mean me any harm.
Okay, let me flip this to, there's a lady?
There is one,
Okay, please, the final one.
I guess. So just to echo on,
Could you just stand up, please, so that we can see you, if you don't mind? Thank you.
so maybe just to echo on what she has said, I think men are threatened because the gender roles are kind of changed, stroke reversed. So that a man could feel like what a woman is doing is what I should be doing. So maybe if we could change how we define the gender roles in the current environment, maybe it could change.
It could change.
Yes.
Okay, so let me ask now, reverse this question to men. And straight question, what is it that men think that women do that is just absolutely wrong, that sort of rubs you the wrong way, that makes you feel a type of way, makes you want to get threatened and do things. What is that thing? Can we just bottle it up and say it? And I will pick Pastor and say this is a safe place. Let me start. All right. So please, yes, let's start from there. Just very quickly, just say it. And then we move on. So can many people speak about this.
Well, I don't have that much experience, but what I have learned, sorry.
Could you please stand up? Yes.
What I would like to say is there are some things that even biologically rubs men the wrong way. If you look at the time of the Romans, when they are sending people to go and fight battles, it's the men that's going to do it. When it comes to conquering, it's the men who's going to do it. Or even the biggest, most primal example of from the start of time, the men would go and hunt the animals and the women would gather and take care of the children. And that's how it goes. But the thing is, you see, in our day and age, there's a lot of, like, I'd say that women have developed a little bit of masculinity in the sense of these days. Yeah, I'm going to say it straightforward. So
speak your mind.
Yeah, I'm speaking.
Yeah,
so women have developed some masculinity. I mean that in utmost respect. Like you can see today that you can have MMA fighters who are women, boxers who are women.
But why is that a problem?
It's not a problem, but like, you know what I mean? Like in the natural role of life, women should, like, you know, not be putting themselves in the face of danger.
Okay. All right. He's spoken his piece. Let me get another man here. Let the microphone move very quickly. Please, stand up, please. What is it that thing that really asks you about women?
Okay, maybe let me answer in a way that I understood in the first question that you asked them, women. For me, I think as a man, in Steve Harvey in his book, he said 3 P's that a man should offer that he won't feel his manhood. Yes, it was to provide, protect, and profess. When you have a money as a lady, give him those 3 roles. As much as you have the money, he still appreciates. Because I'm a Muslim, my Prophet Muhammad, his first lady was a businesswoman, a very tycoon lady. But the reality of the matter is he led her to run her business. Because outside, he was the man to understand this and how to deal with business outside. At the end of the day, if you're a businesswoman, men will take advantage of you at the end of the day. Because the way, let's say this man is a businessman, the way the market, you know, the market fluctuation or the market, can I say?
How it works.
How it works. Look, man will take advantage of you because until even if you have money, but they think still you are weak. So for me, I think the best way a woman can make not a man to feel insecure with her money is to accept him the way he was, even if he had a money. But the matter comes when you just think as a woman. At the end of the day, you know, this business after the World War I or the World War II, a Turkey guy was telling me this. I don't know how the research of this is nice, or I mean, is correct. He was telling me that when the men went to the war, they came back, the market were working now with the ladies. You know, the crazy thing, the market people, the people who were running the market did by then was, the men were taking 100% of the salary. Now they gave them the woman 30%. You see, this 100% was taking care of his wife, his female relatives, a lot of people. But right now, look what's happening. You and a lady, you have to earn the same money. But you are not only taking care of of your wife. You have so many other people depending on you as a man. So right now, can you say that's equal? Is it justice?
So let me ask, how would you like this to work out? So if your lady earns, say, has businesses and say earns 10 times more than you, give me your perfect scenario. How should this work out?
Let her have money.
Okay.
And let her respect me as if I had the money.
Okay. Describe respect. What do you mean the respect?
You know, the respect is there's for me, first as a Muslim, my money is her money and her money is her money, is my money, is her money still. Like my money is her money still, and her money is still her money. I don't have. Then that's as a man you have to provide. What else are you a man if you cannot provide? So then still let her include him in the provision. This is her business. Include him in the working sector. Let him appreciate that he's doing something and he's bringing, even if it's so small. So that's what I can say.
Okay, okay, thanks. At the back, just put the hand the microphone to. Please stand.
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity. So I just want to respond to the question from the perspective, going back to the origin of how a man was created. And my friend here has just emphasized on the same about the provision. So this aspect, there is something that, you know, a man can, God saw it like it was not good, like it wasn't in the original plan of God for a woman to be there, but after after God, yes, let me explain it. Let me explain why.
Let the man has the floor. He has to speak. It's a safe place. Yes. Please go ahead.
So the reason that's why it wasn't on the original plan of God, it's because a man was created first. And then when a man was created, God saw like everything else was perfect, but there is still something was missing. That is when the woman came in to a man's life. So the thing is, a man was created and was given all the authority to be on this earth before a woman came in. And the original plan of a woman was to come into a man's life as a helper. So when the reason as to why men feel threatened, it's because women now, the modern women, the modern feminism, they are getting into a position where they are getting these kind of leadership roles. They are making good money. They are working and even providing at the same
Why is that a problem?
So the problem comes in because when there are certain roles that men are originally meant to do, and when now women come in to take these roles, that's when it threatens the male. So like in an office.
Give me an example. The role that men are created to do and women do them, it creates imbalance.
Let's say an example of, taking care of the bills at home, like the rent, the basic shelter, the health, and so on. So when you find in a setup that a woman has been left to do this role and the man is there, these women always grow to be very bitter because they are not designed to do those roles. So when you force women to do those roles because you as a man, you're failing, that is when they grow their pride and a lot of masculinity in them. And then that's how a man eventually start to feel threatened that this woman is really doing a lot and they're not comfortable. A man will do 100 things, everything, but still wouldn't feel any kind of bitterness.
So can I ask you,
yeah,
if your wife earns more than, assume you're married, more than you don't earn anything. So who should pay rent, you or her?
As long as I'm not a lame and I'm not bedridden, as a man will always do everything possible to ensure I provide the best.
So when don't make rent, this month you've not made anything, who's paying the rent?
At the same time, okay, now that comes in on the issue of balancing roles. Now, when you are a team, when you are married together, we are in a partnership kind of a setup. So we understand based on the economic issues, today might have, tomorrow you might not have, but it doesn't mean that you're designed to do that. So you're just coming in to help. But at the same time, when I get back to my feet, I'm going to resume my roles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a team. Say it's a team. Team. Okay. Let me get 2 comments before I come back to the panel. Yes.
Hi. My name is Gunjiri. I actually think what we are discussing here, it's not whether women should make more money or not, because I have friends who got married, guys who are very rich. I mean, by the time a guy is buying his wife a Porsche Cayenne, I believe that's a guy who has the money, right? And we've seen these marriages go down in less than 2 years. So actually, for me to throw the spanner in the works, I actually believe that the crisis that we have as men is within ourselves. It has nothing to do with the women. It is us finding ourselves. So we might come here, talk about the woman having more money, me having less money or having more money, but we have cases and we have evidence of guys who are rich, who are divorcees, and guys who had no money and still divorced. So money is not the factor here. And I actually believe that the main gap that has come in is the way that Dr. was talking, that initially guys were brought up communally. But now there's this whole thing about chasing the dream. And so what happens is we are going to war and you're forgetting that we are first called in our families. So a guy will go make billions at the expense of raising and passing the baton to the next generation.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, the gentleman here, then I come back. Please give.
To answer the question that was put forth, I think it is the men who have created problems, because first, when they start dating, they are the ones to expose the wallet, how much they earn. So the woman will know this kind of a man earns 70,000. So he's supposed to rent for me 30 G's house, yeah, in Parklands. So when this woman moves to a class where she earns 200,000, she will not stay in that house for 30,000. She has to go to Kilimani for 80,000. So if you are earning 70,000, now she is living in a house of 80,000. So the crisis started when you exposed your payslip. And you know, the society that we are living today is competition for survival. This woman, when she was earning nothing, she was listening to you. Now she has gotten 200,000. And every month, you usually take her to somewhere where you buy for her a cup of coffee, maybe 250 shillings. And maybe chips for 150 shillings. Now she has got her money. She's earning 200,000. You want to take her out there. Now crisis has become. You are boasting how you usually take your girlfriend out with 150 shillings and 250. So the problem started when you exposed your wallet. When you are dating, you should not expose your wallet.
So basically, you should lie.
Because they are.
I want to understand what should you do in your perfect world?
In this
so
Nairobi,
when you're dating, what should you do?
In this Nairobi, you should not expose your wallet, because today you might be earning 70,000, but tomorrow you are up other gigs. Maybe you have an M-Pesa somewhere. Don't tell her that you have an M-Pesa.
Okay.
And maybe you are selling some t-shirts somewhere. Don't tell her you are selling some t-shirts down. So that when she comes with 200,000, maybe you are selling some t-shirts somewhere. You have an M-Pesa somewhere. You're earning 70,000. When she says, take me out to Sarova, you go there. You buy a buffet of 3,000.
Okay.
Yes.
So that will solve the problem.
Yes, that will solve the, because we are living in a world where a woman today will walk, tell you because the problem started with these things called social media. But today has bought a girlfriend, 18 million car.
All right. I got your point. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll come back. But I want to come here and clarify this. But let me start with Pastor, because there's questions that are here about how God did not have a design for women. It's a much afterthought. I think that's an important thing to cover. But there's also another point that Dr. Amokove brought about of the idea of marriage and the ideal in that Christian setting that suggests, I think the religious setting as a whole, that suggests that it's not a marriage of equals, that someone is ahead and the other one is supposed to be under. Clarify for me this very quickly before I go back.
All right. I think I understand what you're saying. The lady was created second, but it doesn't mean it was an afterthought, because I study theology. It's a way someone would tell a story, and then you pause, and then now you introduce a second person in the story. In fact, in the original, it was meant to be that there would be maximum appreciation of the lady as she comes in. Because then by that time, the man was already seeing, I'm not good by myself. Men, we tend to be very work-oriented, that sometimes we don't value the ladies in our lives. In that story, because it's poetry, it was to pause, to introduce the lady later in a way of maximum appreciation. So it wasn't an afterthought. To interpret that. But again, to say, there's an insecurity that we have as men that plays a big role. Then you feel threatened, even when there's no threat. So that I agree. And that's why we're doing the programs you're doing and we are doing to try and encourage the boy child to feel strong enough that the girl child doesn't have to earn less or be less for you to feel good. If I were telling the ladies, shine forth, don't hold back your light, but let the boy be able to stand on himself, on his own, and realize his own confidence. So we need to get our confidence. But also to say, because I do marital therapy, also to say there's a place of attitude. So we are not meant, no one is meant to be lesser. I'm the first person out of religion to say that we are equal. Both of us were created in God's image. There's no one who is less. There are differences that we have that we should appreciate one another. The different roles we play, but playing a role differently from yours doesn't make me superior or inferior. It's a role, but we are equals, playing different roles and appreciating one another. But when this happens, Dr. I'm counseling two people, and the lady stands up because of some of those ways that she's more empowered and saying, this man is useless completely. And in fact, I don't even know how he's a man because he can't even earn more than me. When there's that way of attacking one another, of course, that man is not going to serve you anymore. I remember telling a lady, even me, I wouldn't get married to you if that's how you speak to me, because you're cutting me off. Again, we're just saying the attitude that men had before, which we highly condemn, that because you have more money or you're in charge of the property of the community, then you can dominate, then it shouldn't be reversed. That now, because I have the power and I have the money, then I should also dominate. I think we're trying to recover from a wrong, and we shouldn't create another one. So I think the idea is respect one for another.
Okay. I want to give a personal story. So I married a woman who was making much, much more than I, much more. But because of society expectations, she made me take control. When we got married, her father gave her a Mercedes-Benz, brand new. I used to drive an old Hyundai. And my boys, I was young, stupid. My boys would create a problem. I never saw a problem. I found that it made my ambition go bigger. This is what my wife used to do when we go out. She used to give me money for me to pay the bills. It's her money. And I never felt emasculated, okay? Because that's not the way our relationship, we were never defined by money. In fact, the day we woke up and found out that I had more money, it was still the same. Well, I got divorced eventually, but not because of those reasons. Not because of those reasons. But there's an error and I want to allude what Dr. Ari said here. You all understand what a Ben 10 is. Don't pretend you don't know what a Ben 10 is. A Ben 10 has been created by a situation where a woman says, look, I have the money, I have the power. The only reason I need a man is sex. And for that, I'll go for the youngest, strongest bull. Because this old guy of mine, 3 a.m., he's thinking about his problems. He's not servicing me correctly. So society has already decided that we are all defined by money. And as long as we are all defined by money, sugar daddies, what are they called? Mubabas. And the situation of Ben 10, Mama Waharia will perpetuate, and we've already accepted it because we've allowed ourselves to be defined by money. And for me, who have built wealth, been broke, okay, I always find when I'm down is when people disappear from your life. And you have to know yourself and accept that you're defined by your titles, by what you have. The money gives you power.
So yes, to the point.
Yes.
Now that we are defined by money,
yes.
So what are we supposed to do? Because money is going to be there. It's going to be a factor.
Correct. First of all, it's how you handle money. Money and alcohol brings your true character. There are people who, when they get money, the power issue, insult, there's a situation where women treat men badly just because, what are you for? I have more money than you. Okay, they may not even say it, but the way they act towards it. So that's the threat that we're talking about. But my advice to men is first know yourself, accept yourself. Don't be defined by money. I'm sorry, don't be defined by money. But please don't sit back. Women love ambitious men. You need to be showing that you're pulling your weight. You see, so I don't think it's how much money you're making, but what you are doing. Because again, we have accepted because of our Ben 10 culture. If a woman is making more money, let me just chill. She can take care of it. Soon enough, she's going to leave you and get that Ben 10. So we need just to know yourself first and accept, take responsibility. Things can be bad. Then communicate with your partner, right? Allow her to take care of you. She could also lose that money and you take care of her. We came with nothing and we're going to leave it here. That's my approach to life.
Right. Doc, from the female perspective, it's these gender wars that we have, money at the center of it all. Not that you people are blameless. You're not blameless. All right. Part of this problem. How do we start removing these lenses of the things that we acquire make us who we are in terms of our gendered, personalities? Yeah, from a female perspective.
From a female perspective, I think, from my own perspective, actually, why do we have to say this is what a man should do and this is what a woman should do and this is how much? Why does that have to define us? Why can't I just be the best I can be and you be the best you can be? And today I'm giving you, and I did that thing that you said, I also gave out money. So that when you go out, yeah, I did so many other things. But why is it that the man has to pick the check? You get? And this is what I ask people, especially from my generation who are doing well. Why do you have to sit as if you're helpless? As if you can't fuel that car? As if you can't pay that rent? You have the money, isn't it? He's down for whatever reason, hoping it's temporary. Why is it so hard to help, yeah, in financial situations? I also tell the young ladies, why do you have to be sent for fare to go for a date? Why? Why do we have to, like you've gone to school, you have a job, you're earning. How much is fair? So we are creating this. What that helplessness. So we are learning, we are getting a generation of learned helplessness, both from women and from men, because there are men also who are kept very well. So, yeah. But when did we get to that learned helplessness? You have two hands. Hopefully, don't have a disability. But even the people living with disability have skills and they're earning decent. So that learned helplessness is what we need to unlearn, because nothing stops me from saying, Pastor Mbe, I'm footing the bill today for the dinner, and I will remove the money from my wallet. I will not give you the money under the table. Yeah, and the waiter should not bring you the bill just because you're the man. So I think if we get to those spaces where it's not a competition of provision or security, or just be your best. And your best could be, some of us do not thrive in being homemakers, but then I make a damn good businesswoman. I make a damn good CEO. I do not make a very good mother. And so what happens to me? So should I stop excelling at work so that I come and become a wife or a mother? No, I can actually hire people to help me in the house so that it's run efficiently, so that I excel at work. So these are some of the conversations that we need to start having. Even for a man, there are men. In fact, I've dated men who are better fathers than spouses. And somehow that's the kind of man I like. That they're better parents than the mothers of those children. And society is not ready for such conversation. where we do all these gendered lenses that we've boxed ourselves. I wonder whether the Caucasian, I've not dated a Caucasian, maybe I should, the Caucasian society or the Western society, whether they have these insecurities that you as a woman, you cannot drive and your husband is seated on the left as a passenger. That you have learned helplessness, suddenly you don't know how to drive. You have to be picked, you have to be open for doors. Who started those definitions of how to behave? You have a hand, you can walk, you can open that door, you can enter. And I've suffered this even on dating. We go for a drink, I open my own beer or I open my own drink and I'm told, no, you should sit and wait for it to be poured. Why? Are these things that we are creating for ourselves, that we are setting ourselves up for failure? Because that person whom you have created to have a learned helplessness will meet a person who also has learned helplessness. Then you have these two adults who don't know how to just adults. So I think we need to, there's a stage at which we have to undo those conversations that we've started teaching ourselves. And I want to correct, there's nothing wrong with dating down or dating up or dating across your age. But what kind of a person are you dating? What's the reason for dating? If you're dating because it's a financial transaction, a sexual transaction, then it's not about age. It's about the reason. So let's date down, please. Women, allow yourselves to date down in terms of age, sorry. In terms of age, yeah? Those are against boxes we've put ourselves into. So if I'm seen with a young man, suddenly I am providing for that man. Who knows whether this man is the one providing for me? But the age thing totally flips the equation, and now suddenly I am a cougar. Is it? That's the name they call it.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Yeah.
Especially
so I think,
if you're driving a Harrier. Yeah.
yeah. Especially if you're driving a Harrier. Yeah. So I think we just need to, those learned helplessness, I don't get it. And maybe that's how I'm wired. I was brought up to be a productive member of society. At what point did I stop being a productive member of society? Now I cannot buy my own dress.
You're being too productive.
Yeah, so I mean, so thank you, Dr. Wala, because I wish, all ladies in the country were listening to you right now. Because, there's a saying that my money is our money, but my wife's money is her money. I think those kind of things would not exist if all the ladies were behaving like that. Yeah, I just wanted to also just share something a bit personal. Obviously, a lot of what we are talking about is because it is influenced by, our backgrounds. And I'm fortunate, unlike Pastor Mbevi, I'm fortunate to have, come from a parent, a good father and a good mother. At least I consider them so. And I've seen them working together. And I've seen them, they are both very well accomplished in their respective areas. My dad is a lecturer. My mom is a civil servant, but, quite senior. And, what I've seen is that my dad has really given my mom a lot of space for her to thrive. Yeah. I remember during my mom's PhD graduation, my dad, as he was giving the speech, of course, congratulating the wife, was saying that there's no reason why, my dad had his PhD before. So there's no reason why I had the PhD first, and then my wife had the PhD later. It was actually because we sat and we discussed, and we decided that at the point, she would allow him to do his thing, and then later he would allow her to do her thing. So I've seen him give my mom a lot of space. And because of that, even though, sometimes I sense like my mom earns more, I don't know who earns more, but I have that sense that, my mom earns more than my dad, but I don't know about it. Yeah. And I believe it's because of that leeway that dad has given to mom to be able to thrive in her thing. Now, to come back to one of the what one of the audience members said, I think this is what I think. It's right, maybe not. But if I feel like if a lady, trusts you and sees that you have ambition, like what was saying, then they are likely to sort of trust you more, and they can even invest in you, and if there's something that you need, they can give you your money and so forth. But if you are a lazy person, you don't have any ambition, your work is just to drink, that's now when the women will withhold, because they know here there's no future. Yeah, and they'll just leave you to your own defenses. They'll now talk about what Pastor Bevi was saying, that this is a useless man, because actually you're useless. So I think as men, we should show ambition. I think as men, we should be out there to, even though you're earning less at that time, but if a woman senses that this is someone who's responsible, I think they are likely to trust you more than if you just sit around, you just want to watch Netflix the whole day and have the woman do everything, and you sit down just because you're a man. Yeah.
Okay, so there were some specific questions. Some specific questions that came, I think it was about sexual health. But let me start with you, Doc, first. Does size matter? Does size make a man?
Why am I being asked this? But I'll tell you, I've been around. I've lived 45 years, and I started the sexual activity quite early. And I'll tell you for free, it's like size does not matter. It is the skill. It's what you do with it. So, and it's both ways, where you hear women being told, oh, you're too big, you're too floppy. Medically, I still, unlike what you said, I'm still a doctor.
Yeah. It's the fight in the dog, not the dog in the fight, right?
It's elastic tissue. All this is about skill. And then sex is more than just penetration. There's a lot of physical connection, mental connection, intimacy that goes into the act that is more than just the size. So no, it doesn't matter. Neither does circumcision. Whether you're circumcised or not, this is my personal experience. It does not
We'll get
matter.
a medical afterwards. All right, please. Let's go for the medical interpretation of this.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think when she talks, I can't talk after her because, but honestly, I don't think really size matters. I think because of societal issues, pornography, and so forth, there is a skewed view of how sex is supposed to be. But I think sexual activity is more than just the penetration, as Dr. Ria said, and it's more about the intimacy and the just coming together, and I think that's what fulfills people. So I think size doesn't matter at all. Yeah.
I think it's been answered, and being a therapist,
Christian perspective, how does it?
Being a therapist as well, I think sex is meant to be an enjoyment between two people. Traditionally, it was a man having his day and the woman just being there to serve him. I think that's a wrong perspective. It's supposed to be something enjoyable for both people. Even when you're, in your 70s, you could still really enjoy, even without penetration, but you could still have that. But it's more of our souls getting together. It's an interaction between souls. And there's some people who, for biological reasons or others, penetration doesn't work for them. Maybe it's painful one way or another. There are ways to help with that. But then if that's your focus, then you're going to have a divorce every other year because there's going to be something you don't like. But then if you're there to say, I want to serve you as you serve me, we're serving one another, we're blessing each other with this sexuality God has given us, then it's going to be a great thing for both of you, not just for one. It's meant to be both of you are enjoying what you have. So I don't think size matters in that way, but I think it's, are you connected? You could have the size, but the other partner feels like you're raping them because of the attitude and other things, yeah.
I'm not sure I can add anything to that, but it's a social phenomenon where people actually get judged. Either sides by size. Yeah, and you can hear women speaking, saying that that person carries, so they are more more attractive. And I've also seen that social construct where there's money being spent for penile elongation. I don't know how it can be done, but this money being spent. So if you can close your eyes and forget that social construct for anything.
But it's there. It's the stuff that you have on social media every single day.
Know yourself. Just be confident. No, just accept yourself. And a lot of us don't understand ourselves. And it shows in your level of engagement. If a man stood around and bragged that he's a man because he's bigger than another man, then that's a man who has issues. Yeah, so you understand. And if a woman is attracted to a man because of their size, even that woman has issues. I don't know the medical issue, but we just have to accept we all have those society pressures, and know yourself and understand. There's issues over domination. Forget even size now. That the areas that you need to dominate in sex, and you know that's not true. So I can't have the medical part, but you just need to ignore society and just understand, be confident. And I think women love confidence, regardless of how much money you have. Love confidence.
Yeah. We have questions. Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of erectile dysfunction, and I think because of that stereotype that bigger is better, a lot of men, fueled by social media and what they see in the movies and whatnot, they think that maybe penile elongation will mean maybe more sexual prowess and so forth and so on. But that's not necessarily true. In fact, some of those products that are used out there may tend to do more harm than good. So, and I think a man who's going for those things, and I think some of these people are also con men, yeah? There's a lot of Telegram pages, I can sell this thing, and if you apply this, you'll be inches longer and so forth. I think a lot of that is just really, yeah.
Okay, to the questions, very quickly.
Good evening. My name is Patrick, and I want to be a bit controversial. And this is targeted to Dr. Wala when she said that size doesn't matter. A few weeks ago, JKA confiscated some items. And there were many items. And if you look at the size of those items and the type of energy that is being used, I'm sure Kenya Power have a very huge boost. So I'm wondering, in terms of when you say the size doesn't matter, do you say it because of to make people feel happy? Two, when us men we saw those kind of gadgets, we are wondering, what did God really meant us to do? Does it make us a bit useless? Because even the men who don't have the women who don't have Ben 10s, many of them probably will go that way. The second question goes to the doc. Many men, and I will say, we have seen many men dying in the line of duty. They are coming while going. So this thing called the blue pill, are men overdoing it to perform to women, or women have elongated their standards?
How often should you take it? Okay, can I pick all the questions so that we come back? Next question here.
Thank you. Actually, mine is not a question. It's more of something to say. My name is Mukami. I deal with maternal mental health. But I think the whole problem with this discussion is that it's men versus women. Before we started the girl child empowerment, it was a patriarchal system. So it was men versus women. Then we did the empowerment of the girl, then it became girls, women versus men. But I don't think we can survive without men, and I don't think men can survive without us. As women, we are meant to give birth to children, to carry the baby. At that particular time, you need a man to First of all, conception, and then, of course, at that point as a woman, when you're going through your pregnancy, you're not at your strongest. So you need that man to support you. And it doesn't mean that he's supporting you financially, because I think we have maternity leave, we are working, your business can still operate. It means that they need to support the emotional part of you. When we're talking about maternal mental health, I cannot help women without talking to the fathers. You cannot help mothers deal with mental health without involving the fathers of the children. So if we're talking about any way of healing society, it has to be combined effort. Recently, my 6-year-old son was pushed in the mud by a girl, and then he came crying. And then he was like, another boy said, he's been pushed by a smaller girl. And then he told, Mommy, I tried my best not to cry, but I just cried. Because he was like, I felt hurt that I was pushed in the mud and by a little girl, and the other boys were laughing at me. So as the mother, what do I tell him? Do I tell him, no, you're a boy, you shouldn't cry? I just told him it's okay to cry. If you feel like crying, it's okay. At one particular point, I will be a mother-in-law. I will be telling him, do this to your wife. Okay. But there's another woman over there who has a daughter who was once a wife who will be telling the daughter, do this to your husband. You see, so we are having at different stages, taking different perspectives. When I'm a mother to a son, I want my son empowered. When I'm a mother to a girl, I want my son empowered. But when I'm a mother-in-law to another girl, I want to disempower that girl because she's my son's wife. To be like, hey, she should not be working, nini, nini. So at what point do we even start having these conversations, men versus women? Because I, as a woman, will put down my daughter-in-law as her husband's mother. The other one will put down another daughter married to another man married to the son, to the daughter, I mean, but will also want the daughter to be empowered. Lastly, I like the issue of sex. I see their kids, but let me just say this. I don't like the issue of sending fare because society has made that sex benefits the man. I should be able to wake up and tell a man, where, Ebu, come. I need it. Today is the day I need it, please come. And that is why we have the issue of sending fare, because women don't also realize the importance of that thing. I think it's, yeah, so that's my contribution.
All right. Do I have a burning issue before I go? Burning issue. Yes. It's really, really burning.
Hi. I'm Geoffrey. So I think the question of size will always be controversial because I feel like ladies say size doesn't matter to make us feel good. But as he said, the toys that they buy, they're never little, they're humongous. Yeah. And my question is, if I have this lady that I like so much, I have feelings for her. I believe I'm in love with her. In our journey of life, why is it wrong for me to just step aside, taste something? I don't have feelings for this other one. It's just physical pleasure and come back home to my loving wife. Is it bad when I'm not emotionally attached to someone else, but there's, let's say—
So quick question, would you allow her to do the same? All right, thanks. Let's move on. You won't, so it's fine. Daktari, please take it up.
I think that is a mic drop moment. So in terms of we call them BOBs, battery operated boyfriends. And I think we need another session just for the sexuality and make sure it's PG rated, because there's a lot of, we are in an age where we're exploring, a lot of exploration is happening, and a lot of out of the norm kind of sexual conversations as well as habits are happening, and it's a reality. So the sooner we accept that there's a lot of that happening, the better. But back to the toys, and I am one person who has talked about them on my wall, and even Sean. Because of all this conflict that's happening between men and women, whether perceived or real, quite a number of women are leaning a lot towards the BOBs. And that's because a BOB will not nag you. A BOB will not come drunk. They will not get tired unless Kenya Power does its thing. So there are those other benefits of the toys that come because they're toys that the men don't provide. But and many of them will say, you know what, this one won't bring me an STI, they wouldn't make me pregnant and whatnot. And it's available at our beck and call. But I think the conversation should not be that this is a threat to you as a man. And that's because there'll always be that person, even this same person. I know of couples who use those toys. So it's not an exclusion that it means that you are excluding the man from the conversation. And there are also toys for men, by the way. So it's not only women who are using them. But to talk about it, I think we are caught at a conflict situation in terms of societal expectations vis-a-vis what the media is feeding us. And we have a society that's leaning a lot towards exploration, while our laws, because nothing is, maybe I should not be caught on record talking about this. Those toys don't harm anyone. So I don't know why they're outlawed. And they're being sold. Actually, the issue is you being caught with them at immigration. It's not you buying them at Diamond Plaza, because they're there. So it's sort of like for me it's hypocritical that you have it available, they're being sold, but it's just that you can't cross it.
Could you provide this final
Yes.
word on this? Looks like women being politically correct on the question of size. That you provide lip service.
No. This one I'm telling you for free. Actually, the bigger the person, especially if they don't know what to do with it, they actually hurt you. And that's why there are rings. Because it becomes like, for them now, that is what they're bringing to the table, you get. So many of them lose that skill of, getting you to that place in terms of intimacy, in terms of, because they think this, ukiona, umeingia box, sindio? So I'd rather the man who would dine me, would wine me, would, do the things that I enjoy doing to get there. And eventually the actual act is just a small part of the whole journey. So I think for real, it's not politically correct. It is that size doesn't matter. In fact, sometimes we don't like those big sizes simply because you come with, this is my card, yeah? And then you don't have the fine needs. Because women, you take a longer time to get to that place of getting aroused and whatnot. And for women, I tell them, communicate. If it's not working, communicate. Sometimes the man is clueless, let me tell you. I have had people who I have had to teach how to make love to me. And so and we enjoy it after that. So sometimes it's also how do you communicate your needs? Because someone thinks they can, your nipples are knobs of radios, and maybe that's not what your erotic zones are. So if you don't communicate, there's someone who the nipple is an erotic zone, erogenous zone. So communicate so that it's a conversation and it's a nice dance. And sex is beautiful. And I think we need to have sex in a safe way, but enjoy it. I think we don't talk a lot about this, and I hope
it's a problem.
It will be a topic for the next quarter.
For the next one. So I have a QR code on the screens. If you can see it, you can just direct your cameras there and you can put questions and thoughts. These conversations continue. It doesn't end even this discussion ends today. I want Ramadan, who's a fantastic photographer that I met early on, and you see his exhibition there, just 1 minute to tell us what he does and why he does it. Ramadan is here in front. Please give the microphone. So in 1 minute, just tell us what you do.
Yeah, hi, my name is Ramadan Said, and I'm actually the creative director at Karali Pics. So what we do is usually use photography and art to actually bring awareness towards men's mental health. So what we do is actually create concepts around things that are actually provocative. Actually, when you see it on the screen, so there's a story behind every photo. And why I did this is because in the creative field, we usually use our mental disorder as a fuel for being creative. If you call me as a photographer when I'm actually depressed, you'll have good photos in your portraits and your weddings and stuff. But when I'm feeling good and happy, definitely it will be a flow. So every photo here is curated to actually be provocative. I don't want you to see the photo and feel like, oh, it's a nice photo. I want you to ask, what's up with this? What's the story behind this? And the story behind this is because in our studio, we had like 6 photographers. Then 4 of them actually committed suicide because of underlying issues that they don't talk about. And this is the whole issue about men's mental health. There's a lot of stigma behind it. People don't want to talk about it in its entirety, you know? Especially in Kenya right now, we have a situation where men usually talk about their problems as jokes, you know? Jana nilipigwa na wife wangu, kila mtu anacheka, unajua? And then we have to have a system where men actually talk to each other about their own problems, you know? The way they created a safe space around women, men have to come around and actually start talking about the same thing. If a person jokes, we just laugh at them, pull him aside. Yo, were you serious about that? You know, because we usually don't do that. So yeah, most of our photos definitely have actually created a conversation around something, you know, in our own space as photographers and artists and whatever,
Right.
it has created a space for us to do something. So I feel like we have to have a part.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Back to the microphone to Dr. Zul Merali just to give a comment in a minute.
Thank you. So what I would like to say is that we're focused very much on the money part of the relationship. But really the bottom line is that I think every relationship has to do with respect for each other, caring, and things like that. So I think that if you really open up to those real emotions and sentiments and true caring, then money is not that important. And I think that we're giving as a society too much importance to money. And then based on what Ramadan was saying, I think that it's so important that we pay attention to mental health as well in the relationships. Because when you get into a situation where you feel you're not valued and there are a lot of stresses in life, it leads to spiraling down and getting depressed. And that doesn't help relationships either. So, you know, you tend to isolate yourself and you're not the person that you need to be. So I think that by putting too much emphasis on money, I think that we're missing a very large part of the equation, which is really non-financial in relationships.
Right, that's great. So I want to start here as we make the closing. And the question for me is simply on how we resolve this conflict that we have. As a man, I have issues, I have problems. What should I do?
Right. You know, before I answer that, there was a question that was asked about, you know, these medications that men use. So I think a lot of that is because of the pressure that sometimes society or some perceived pressure, you know, that men have to perform in a certain way. And it's true that some of those drugs are not harmless. For the most part, they help, and there's indication for use of those medications. There are people who have diabetes, for example, and we know diabetes does affect sexual function. And so some of those medications actually help to, you know, sort some of those things. But however, when we start using them as recreation drugs, and then we don't even dose them, and then there are some supplements that actually tend to do more harm than good, then that's when now, you know, we start seeing issues where men maybe someone had high blood pressure, maybe they have a heart issue, they were using antihypertensives, and they have then used this blue pill, and then we get those kind of problems. So yeah, so that was my comment about that issue. I think as men, we should not listen to society. We should have confidence in ourselves. We should know that our women are there as partners as opposed to as enemies or as foes. We should actually be partner with them. If you're in a family, then your wife is actually a partner, yeah. And then you just move forward. So just being confident, being ambitious, and and just moving forward.
All right.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about toxic masculinity. I don't know why it didn't feature, we forgot about it. But I'm very worried about that growing movement, that men are being willingly infused with this information that you have to be very toxic or negative, especially towards women, to be a man. And my parting shot will be, if you're able to use your social media space, whenever you see, because we see those things, we see people being body shamed or being attacked or whatever, and we go and join in the fun, how can we stop? How can that stop? How can that conversation stop with you? Can we stop sharing images? Can we stop sharing quotes? Can we stop putting emojis? Because we are fueling a very dangerous conversation where you are working a whole generation up to hate another gender. So I think that would be my parting shot. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add what Mukami said, I think this is not meant to be a gender war. When we are here to complement each other. And that's why we're moving even beyond gender equality to gender intelligence, where we understand one another and use that to support one another. But I would say to the men that there are 4 things we seem to be looking for that we need to define around ourselves. Number 1 is redefine masculinity today, so that we don't live with outdated versions of masculinity. What does it mean? And it has to be within, not just without. But number 2 is we need brotherhood. We need to work together. As we work together, we challenge each other. We deconstruct toxic masculinity together. We become brothers walking a journey that is honorable. And of course, in that, there must be vulnerability, your pet topic. A man has got to be strong enough to cry when he needs to cry, talk about what he needs to talk about. There's nothing weak about that. It's all being human. And lastly, we need to get off let off the pressure of success. I think we have defined ourselves by what we make and what cars we drive, while life is way more than success. It's really about significance. When we're going to bury you, nobody is going to talk about the car you drive, the house you lived in. We're going to talk about 3 things which are really significant: your relationships, your character, and your impact in society. And we need to focus on what matters more so that there's no undue pressure on our masculinity. Let's go ahead, men who are here. Let's bring out our best game that will be a blessing to ourselves and to the women around us, the children, and the rest. Let's have what is healthy.
Thank you. So my parting shot, men, responsibility. And responsibility is owning up to your mistakes, apologizing, and fixing them. That's the first thing I'll urge you to do. All of us make mistakes, and don't be defined by what you did in the past. That's the first thing. Second, be ambitious. We need to leave this world better than we found it. And ambition is not about making money. Plant a tree. Just do things to make the world better. If you can't get rid of these restrictive thoughts, okay, I'll give you a scenario. I still believe in traditional dating. I need to pay the bill, open the door, I need to pick you up. Yet I'm the same contrarian who is saying we need to get rid of traditional things. So, and that's a personal belief. So if you can't work to get rid of those particular thoughts that end up holding you back. My pet conversation: find a place to be vulnerable. Find someone you can be vulnerable to. Because those pent-up emotions that you're struggling with will kill you or kill the person you care about.
All right. Thank you very much. I think these are very deep things. I hope you guys are taking notes. No. Mental notes. All right. Now, I want to invite someone who I believe has benefited greatly and a lot from this conversation to close us down. Dr. Wachira, who's benefited more than everyone else in this room. Makofi tafadhali.
Thank you very much, James. Guys, a big clap for our panelists. All right. So it's been a great conversation, and I guess we have to redefine men in the, I don't know which century we are in. So men 3.0, I guess. So really thank you for the insights, and a big thank you to our female audience for really bringing up some of the things we need to think about. And appreciate everyone for coming today, everyone. So just a quick brief in terms of what our live conversations is. So this happens quarterly in here, and we cover topics that are societal, topics that are affecting us as a society, and they vary for each discussion, and really invite you guys to always come. It's I think the announcements goes, it's February, May, August, and November. Yes, so the next one will be in February. You'll see the announcements go through on social. And again, the idea is not for us to come to a conclusion. So we're not saying this conversation is over. We've just opened up the discussion, and hope you, as you go back in your different fields, will be able to take the conversations, and even various aspects of us as a university will pick up this conversation to keep talking about this, because I don't think it's something we can really finish on this day. So with that, maybe a few housekeeping issues. If you have parked downstairs, your parking will be sorted. We have meals outside here. And we will also be doing some interviews. So feel free. One of the camera guys may approach you. Fungua roho. Yes, today was a man's day, but also welcome the women to give your opinions. And this will be curated as part of our live conversations. So again, thank you very much, everyone. Yes, QR code. Again, if you scan the QR code, put your questions there. We will use this now to continue the conversation in our different areas. But again, guys, go out there and wanaume oi! Louder bana. Yani kwani umechapwa? Wanaume oi! Wanaume oi! Have yourselves a lovely evening. Goodbye.
Thank you.